Hey, Richard Bryce here. In this video, I want to help you to make less silly mistakes on your overheads. You've got the chance to win the point and you just send it sailing long. It happens so many times. Why is it? There are a couple of reasons, and we're going to be addressing one of them in this video. This is the one that you probably haven't worked on before. What is it? It's the footwork. Now, tennis is a game built on really awkward, unnatural movements. That's why it's so hard. But out of all the movements, I mean, the inside-out forehand, that is awkward. But this one's probably the most awkward because you have to go from facing that way, you have to keep looking that way. Actually, you have to lift your head up so you can't even see the floor. And now you have to move backwards, not being able to see the floor. As far as your brain's concerned, that is hard work. There's a number of things that are going to be important, how your balance system's functioning, how your peripheral vision is functioning, that can be key to making this happen. And I'll talk about those at the end of the video. But now we're going to focus on the actual movement, because unless you've practiced this, it is going to be hard to execute well. You need to be able to just do it, get back quickly, and get set up in position. So instead of starting at the start, I'm actually going to start more at the end. I want you to just get in this position as if you're about ready to serve. So you're going to be prepared for your overhead. And I just want you to get used to moving like this. So when we're trying to cover ground going backwards, we're generally going to be doing crossover steps. Just the same as when we're at the baseline, crossover steps help us to move quickly sideways. So a crossover step, I'm crossing over and I'm just doing that. So it's generally going to be moving like that, but probably a little bit more dynamically to cover the ground. But you've got to practice it. Start slow, make sure your body feels safe. You're going to be looking up, very unnatural. Practice it and then get more confident with it. So from there, can I start to go a little bit more quickly? Now you're only normally going to need to do maybe 2 or 3 of these at most to cover pretty much the whole court. So just practice, get used to understanding what that feels like. So we practice the crossover step. Sometimes you kind of get the judgment wrong and you have to move forwards a little bit or move back a little bit further. So we need adjustment steps. This isn't going to be a crossover step, it's just going to be a shuffle. So if I was showing you from the side, shuffling that way, because sometimes you go back too far. You're back too far and you're, oh no, and you've got to step in. So you've got to practice the shuffle steps. And you just literally do that. I've got my head up, I've got my hand up, I'm ready, I'm in a starting position. And you just get comfortable like that. Because if you're not comfortable like that without the ball, you will not be comfortable when the ball's coming. So we got that part covered. Now we need to look at how we transition from our split step, which obviously we're going to be doing, landing low and wide, to getting back. So we're going to cover the slow version first. This is the way you're going to learn it. You've landed in your ready position, hopefully just after they've made contact with the ball, so then you can react as quickly as possible. And you're going to pivot. So you need your legs bent. You're going to be pushing off this outside leg and you're going to pivot out. Now this requires a certain degree of hip flexibility to be able to do it, and this is going to be a factor in how fast you can go, but you'll be pivoting out and then driving off this leg to do the crossover step. So when you land with this leg, you're not going to be landing with a flat foot like that. You're going to be landing on the ball of your foot with your shin pointing down so you can push through and cover as much ground as possible. So if I do it in slow motion, I'm landing, I'm pivoting, and then I'm pushing. So landing, pivoting, and pushing. Now obviously, as you do that, you're going to be preparing with your racket. So, and even just from a couple of steps, so I wasn't that close to the net, but just from a couple of steps, I've covered a lot of ground. So then if I want to kind of go back a little bit further, 2 steps, I'm pretty much at the baseline. So this is why you want to practice it. Now that's where you're going to start, but you'll probably end up making it a little bit more dynamic, where instead of just loading and pushing, you might actually kind of jump again and you'll land on that foot and then push off. So it's kind of an extra little hop, but it'll allow you to cover more ground on that initial step. And then you just practice it. As always, start slow, make sure your body feels comfortable, and then over time, just work on it, rep it out, build on the speed. Obviously you could practice different angles, so instead of going directly back, I might want to practice moving more towards this corner. It involves less hip flexibility, but the nuts and bolts are the same. You could also practice it moving a little bit more into this corner, but that's a bit more challenging. But that's the movement to the overhead. If you work on this, it will reduce the number of silly overheads that you miss, and it's going to make a big difference. But something I have to mention, I mention it in pretty much every video, is the visual side of things. We're landing from that split step, loading, using the elastic in our muscles, hopefully landing just after they've made contact so we can see where the ball's going and push off and get back in position. But if your visual processing isn't good enough to react quickly enough, it screws all this stuff up and makes it so much harder, and you're so much slower moving back. To make you faster with footwork is one thing, but by shaving off hundredths of a second in visual processing, it's one of the most important parts of speed. So, in addition to programming this footwork, I highly advise you train your visual system because it's easy to do, and I've created a free program for you. I'll place the link down below and I'll place the link up there so you can grab hold of that if you want. I hope you have enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it for you, because I just love practicing footwork, as you can tell. Go ahead, get out there, work on it, get back faster to those overheads, and then we can start to worry about the second most common mistake, which is bringing your head down and taking your eye off the ball. But we've got to get this part right first, okay? Any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you.